Hello guys, I'm Obsidious and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a tier list, which is, I think, a fairly new concept in the Mario Kart 7 community. But I think it should be an interesting concept, and this will be, I guess, a two-part series. One video, which is the one you're watching now, will be on time trials and ranking the tracks based on how fun they are to time trial and things like that. I'll try and factor my opinion in a little bit, but it'll be like 25% my opinion and 75% objective. And then we'll have the same thing but with lounge as well, and factoring in not only the driving but also like how you play with items and things like that. So this is the first part, so we'll be talking about time trials. And I guess there's nothing better to do than, I guess, go ahead and hop right in with the first track. Okay, it's kind of ordered weirdly, so I'll just try and do my best. We'll start with Toad Circuit. Okay, Toad Circuit. Well, it's mostly a fairly simple track, and I don't think it can get S tier or F tier. Neither really work with that. I'm gonna say it's mostly, it would be A tier, but it has problems in the shortcuts, and it's very precise if you want to get a good time. So I think I'm gonna place this in B tier. Okay, moving on, Daisy Hills. This track is also fairly simple, but it does have one major problem, which is balloon boost, which can be very jank. And also when you get to the higher levels, it's just in general, it can be kind of bad. So I'm thinking somewhere around C to B range, but honestly, there's not too many problems with it, so I'm gonna also put this in B tier. Okay, now we have Cheap Cheap Lagoon. Honestly, I would be lying if I said this was just as good as the previous two. Honestly, it's pretty bad. Like, name one good thing about the track, really. I mean, it's our first water track, and it's a nice introduction. But it has like the glider strat. It's pretty jank. So I'm gonna put this in D tier. All right, moving on to Shy Guy Bazaar. I really like this track, and I like how there's advanced strats in this track, like stall boost and the glider hop as well, if you perform it well. But also, you can still get a good time, even if you don't have those things. Like, I have a 203.6, and I don't have any advanced strats at all, to my knowledge. And I think Taylor has like a point 0.1, and I mean, his strats are probably even simpler than mine. So I like that. That's going for it, certainly. But then you have to keep in mind there's like stall boost, and I don't know. It's kind of crazy when it comes to that. So I think stall boost is really jank. So I'd go A or B tier. I think this is also gonna get a B tier, to be honest. But I don't know. It's kind of in the middle between A and B. Oh, I didn't mean to put that there. There we go. Okay, and now we move on to Woohoo Loop. Honestly, I really like Woohoo Loop as a track. It's very simple, and I feel like a lot of other people like it because it's one of those tracks where it really shows your skill level because it's essentially just driving. There's a few things that you have to worry about, like getting that high trick on the ramps at the end of lap 2, and the cars, which I don't like, but that's the only thing keeping it away from S tier, I think. So I'm going to give this a solid A tier, to be honest. Alright, moving on to Mario Circuit. The track is the NISC, the no item shortcut. Honestly, it's very jank, depending on how much you jump in there. And then there's the mushroom platform where you have to press B, and then there's the turn. I personally like this track, but I feel like it's not deserving of a rank that I think it should be because of how much jankness there is in it, including like the pasta and everything. So I'm gonna give it C tier. Oh, I put that in the wrong one. Okay. And then we have Music Park. Music Park is kind of the same case for me. I like it, but I mean it's our first pace based track really, and honestly, if it's pace based, you can't really give it a good rating, to be honest. Like for people who have like 149 or worse, it's not really a problem because they don't have to do no boost. But once you get better than that, it becomes a problem. So and it has different like you use mushroom mostly, so that's also going to take away from the score a little bit because most of the tracks are Slick or Red Monster Wheel. So I'm going to put this in D tier, I think. But in my personal opinion, it should be C tier. Okay, Piranha Plant Slide, I don't think we need to talk about that at all. It's definitely F tier. Like the embodiment of a bad track. That is what Piranha Plant Slide is. Every single thing about it is bad. Like if you're not that good at the track, it can be okay, but once you start doing all of the gimmicks and it's really jank, and there's so much bad about it. Like there's not one good thing about the track. It's so inconsistent. Like there's no reason it should be anything but F tier. So like you can't even find anybody in the community I think who would like Piranha Plant Slide very much, who is like better than top 100 on that track. Okay, moving on to TK Jungle. I think it has the right balance of gimmicks and tech, and just fair out driving. So there's not too much of a problem with it if I'm being honest. It's mostly just driving, and it has a high skill cap. I'm gonna put this in A tier. If we're talking about the glitch, that's a whole nother matter, and this would not be A tier. But I'm just talking about the no glitch side of things. Okay, moving on to Wario Shipyard. Personally, most people don't like the water physics because water physics aren't the usual, and it's a little weirder. And also, you have to use a different card combo there, which makes it harder for players to adjust to it. And it usually takes longer to PR there because of that, because you have to get used to the cart combo. So I'm thinking around C tier for Wario Shipyard, because once you get good at it, it's fun. And honestly, the coins are absolutely horrific. Like honestly, they're horrific. If you're going for world record or 154, oh gosh, this track is gonna give you a hard time, especially with the coins. But honestly, I'm not sure I can give it a D tier because the track isn't that bad. Other than that, there's not too much I can really complain about. I guess maybe the jank shortcut, uh, shroom cut, it can be jank sometimes. But you know what? Yeah, and the glider, it can be jank as well. Yeah, I'll give it D tier. I think it's deserving of D tier. Even though once again I would give it C tier, in my personal opinion. Okay, now we move on to New Bowser City. I think as a beginner, this track is perfectly fine because it's just driving. There's nothing special. But then once you start getting into like turn cut and glider cut, it starts to get really difficult. And we're kind of basing it on what somebody might think of it who is around my skill level. And like for me, it's really hard for me to get top 100 time on it because if I do, I pretty much have to learn turn cut. And that shortcut's really hard, which I think takes away from the value of this track as a whole. So I'm gonna give this one. I'll give it a C tier to be honest. Oh, okay. And then we have Makawoohoo. Uh, this track is honestly pretty fun to play. Lap 3 is a different story, but laps 1 and 2, honestly, once you learn all of the tech and you learn the intricacies of playing the track, it's pretty fun to play. And I mean, there's not much wrong with it. It's pretty fun. I'm gonna give it A tier. All right, hold on. We're forgetting a track in the Special Cup, I think. Oh, well, I guess we'll move on to it later. That's fine. Alright, we'll do Rosalina's Ice World. Oh, yeah, we did DK Jungle earlier. Well, that's fine. Rosalina's Ice World. Uh, Overall, I think it gets more hate than it deserves. Because people just don't like it because of the shortcut, which is a perfectly reasonable explanation. But other than the shortcut, the track is honestly kind of decent. So I think if you can get past looking at that, and we factor everything in, it's C tier. I don't think it really go any worse or any better. Because even without the shortcut, I don't think the track is that good, but some might think that. Okay, Bowser's Castle. I'm just gonna pretend like the world record gap cut doesn't exist because only a few people use it. So if we ignore that, this track is honestly pretty decent in terms of tech. You know, it's mostly just lines. The lava cut is kind of bad, and I can see why people wouldn't like it because of that. And also the turn at the end is kind of bad. It's not easy to control sometimes. But other than that, I think it's B tier. Ooh, didn't mean to put it there. There we go. Okay. And now we have the last race of all of the Nitro Cups, Rainbow Road. Personally, I am not a fan of this track at all, so it's going to be kind of hard to give this an objective evaluation. But if you learn all the tech and take the time to learn it, it can honestly be fun. Except for lap 3, kind of like with Makawoohoo. It's kind of jank sometimes. So, I don't know. It's either B or C tier. I'm going to give it a C tier. This app sucks sometimes. Like, this is the best one I could find on the App Store. Like, look, I'm putting it in C tier, and it's not going in there, you know? But it's fine. Okay. We have Luigi's Raceway. Okay, for Luigi's Raceway, the track is mostly simple. It's mostly just lines, which you could say, okay, well, there's no real problem with it. But the tunnel, it's mostly just guessing, and that also means you have to be very precise with your movement. So I'm giving Luigi Raceway, I think, it's somewhere around the C or D range. I don't know. I think it can be fun to TT sometimes, and it's a good test of somebody's skill. And it's honestly fun to grind sometimes. I'll give it a C tier. Okay, Retro Bowser's Castle 1. We have the jumping on the walls and stuff is not very fun, but it's a very good way to optimize your runs. And it has a very high skill cap, I think. I think it's worthy of B tier. There's a couple problems with it, but it's mostly a pretty bland track with most of your basic tech, like you can do glider boost and then jumping on the walls. It's a fun way to challenge yourself if you're looking for a challenge, like with U-turn or just jumping on the walls. Okay, moving on to Mushroom Gorge. I mean, is there really anything good about this track? There's so many tech, and it's very hard to get it down. This is honestly F tier. I mean, there's no question about that. There's nothing really good about the track. The coins are jank, the shortcut is jank, the gap cut is jank if you pull it off, bridge cut is bad, big jump is bad. There's nothing good about it. It's kind of like a Piranha Plant slide. It's not as bad as Piranha Plant slide, but it's kind of close. Okay, and then inversely, I think Luigi's Mansion deserves S tier. Because think about it. I think it's like the imperfect embodiment. Oh, where did it go? What the heck? There it is. Okay. Come on. Okay, I think it deserves S tier because there's just enough. It's very well balanced. There is just enough tech to have it be hard and have the times be spread out. Like you don't have to have perfect, absolutely perfect lines to get a decent time. Uh, but also, there is not so much tech that it makes the track unenjoyable to play. It has just the right balance of tech and like driving. It's I think the embodiment of a perfect track, most certainly. Like I don't think there's many arguments saying that it would be anything below A tier. I can understand if somebody puts it A tier, but like anything B or below, I don't really understand that. I think Luigi's Mansion is a great track. Okay, we move on to Koopa Beach. I don't remember much from me when I TT'd this track, but honestly, the glider boost is kind of bad because it seems luck based, and it looks like a simple track, but there's actually quite a lot of tech to it. So I think it's deserving of a B tier. Okay, moving to Mario Circuit 2. Honestly, this track would be A tier if it didn't have the problem of uh, glider cut and whatnot, or pasta. But because of that, and the fact that the leaderboards are all messed up, and just all of the stuff that factors into people who are trying to get better times, it's gonna only be C tier, I think. Okay, now Coconut Mall. It's one of the higher tiers. I think it's either S or A. It's one of the two. I would probably give it an S tier if World Record didn't have to like hop on the edge of the staircase and grind that. And the cars can be troublesome sometimes, but I think if you can time trial it, uh, I think this is deserving of A tier because you could argue that the cars are pace based. All right, we move on to Waluigi Pinball. Honestly, the cannon boost is pretty bad because a lot of players struggle with it, myself included. Most people actually struggle with it. Like, there are a lot of people that have problems with that. And big jump can also be kind of a problem. Personally, I think it's fun to time trial, but is there problems with the track? Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna give this B tier. Well, it might actually need to go in C tier. I think some people might not enjoy it as much as I do. I'm gonna give this C tier. Alright, now moving on to Calamari Desert. This track is pretty precise, and I don't know. I think it deserves one of the higher tiers, if I'm being real. It might even deserve an S tier. You could argue that the trains are pace based, but I don't think that would be a good argument because if you have any amount of good time, you don't have to worry about the train, like at all. So I think that's a good thing, most certainly. And I hope when Nintendo made this game, they knew that players who were better at the game wouldn't have to worry about the train and time trials. In fact, I haven't even really seen the trains and time trials. Oh, well, you have to worry about it lap 2 at the glider, I guess, but that only lowers your frame rate a little bit. Uh, I might give this an S tier, if I'm being honest. I know a lot of people find it problematic sometimes, but that's only because it's one of those tracks where you have to grind it for a while to see results. I'm giving it S tier because there's not much of a problem with the track. I can't like off the top of my head, I can't really think of many problems with it, other than the fact that there's not much to it. There's not too much you have to worry about. I guess you have to worry about like the the shortcut and the long turn, and that can be a little jank sometimes. So I can 100% see an argument that it would be A tier, or maybe even B tier, but I'm gonna give it S tier, even though like personally I'm not a huge fan of the track, but it's all right. All right, now we're in Leaf Cup now. Wow, okay, we're really flying through this. All right, now we move on to DK Pass. DK Pass. Honestly, I find that people are either pretty good at this track or pretty bad at it, and that's because there's a lot of tech to it, and you have to get good at that. So you have to spend a while on this track. I think it's deserving of a B tier. Alright, moving on to Daisy Cruiser. The tables that move, you can argue that that's pace-based, and I think that's a decent argument to make, considering that you can hit them. But if you know how to dodge them, then I don't think it's too much of a problem. I think this would probably rank somewhere around B tier. It's okay. It's rather bland. I'm not a huge fan of it, but others might be. And I really don't like the turn going into the underground, like after the tables. I don't know. I might give this C tier. I'm gonna give it B tier. Honestly, it's kind of fun to play. All right, moving on to what's next. We have Maple Treeway. Okay, Maple Treeway, it has a very, very high skill cap because there are lots of things that you have to learn about the track that not many people use. And I think that might lower the value of it slightly just because there's so much to learn and so much you can mess up at. I learned this myself when I got my 215.9, which was uploaded to my YouTube channel yesterday. So, honestly, and the wigglers aren't really a problem if you can learn how to do turn cut. If you don't know how to do turn cut, it can be a problem, but not too much of a problem, really. It's probably deserving of a C tier. Alright. And when I made this tier list, I knew it was going to look like a pyramid, pretty much. Most of the tracks would be somewhere in the middle. That makes the most sense, I think. Because if they were all equal, that wouldn't really make much sense. That just shows that the game is... There's a lot of tracks that are bad, but there's also a lot of tracks that are good. No, we want it to mostly be even. So the fact that it's showing like most like pyramid, that's a good thing, I think. Okay, moving on to the final track of the game, or the final cup. We deal with Koopa Cape. I personally love this track, and I think that once you learn it mostly, it's pretty good to play. I think I'll give this A tier. And sorry for the background noise. It is raining outside, and it's getting kind of bad. Hopefully that's not too much of a problem. Alright, now I'll try and wrap up this video quickly, just in case you guys can hear it. Okay, we move on to Dino Jungle. Personally, not a huge fan of this track, and especially the glider cut, it's a big problem. But if you can learn that and really get past that, I think it's not too bad. And the coins are kind of bad. I'm gonna give it C tier. I think it deserves either C or B tier. Alright, we have 2 tracks left. Airship Fortress. I don't like the final turn, and other than that, the track is pretty decent. There's not too much to say about it other than that. The bullets can be a problem, I guess. But if you can get past that, I think it's either C or B. I'm going to give it B tier. Yeah, good thing the rain's going down a little bit. Alright, we're going to the final track, Rainbow Road. I think this is a pretty good track for players to test their skill on because it's just a flat track, pretty much. And there's swamps, but those are not too much of a problem. And you can balance the strategy of how to use your mushrooms. And I think for that, it has some strategy involved. And that honestly makes the track a lot better. I think what can take away from it is also its simplicity, though, because people might find it boring, or they might want to quit it earlier because of that. And it's one of those tracks where you pretty much have to get perfect lines. And the tricks might even seem a little luck dependent. So because of that, I think it deserves C tier maybe. Or B tier. I think I'll give it B tier. I think it's deserving of B tier. Alright guys, and that is the tier list completed. That's it. If you enjoy this kind of content, then please make sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to be making another video like this not too long for now. That's about all I have. Goodbye. Thank you for watching.